Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Matter of Trust. This is Patrick, and I am Yeshua. Today we have the 11th episode of A Matter of Trust, and it's about spirituality. Again, it's part 2. We had so many questions, we didn't even get to answer half of them. So today we're going to make an effort to really go even deeper and further down the rabbit hole of spirituality and all the kind of questions that may occur when talking about spirituality. So yeah, Patrick, where do we start from?
Well, we already did definition, so if you missed that, please go to previous episode 10, part 1 of spirituality. Our first question today can be how we implement spirituality in our lives, how we implement it in society. Implementing spirituality, I was just thinking, what can it actually mean, just to understand implementing spirituality, because it seems so broad. And we talked a little bit about it last time, that it could kind of be there even if it was not conscious, but then it could also be the development of consciousness and awareness. You can have behavior, as I gave an example last time. You can have behavior that people find spiritual without calling it yourself. So yeah, implementing it in our lives, I think we touched upon it last time, and the first that comes to my mind is actually paying a lot of attention. Paying attention to details, like everything around us, like making these pauses in life to see, hey, how is this whole thing connected, and how is it connected to me? So asking these questions and opening up to what might be inside of ourselves, because spirituality, I find it's a discovery.
Yeah, we have many different kinds of definitions what spirituality means to the individual. For some, it's more like something religious. For some people, it's Jesus. For some, it's God. For some, it's Allah or Buddha. Or there's many names, many different names. So I can definitely see what you mean by what you're saying, because ultimately it's about finding that personal path of yours, finding that personal thing that really connects well with how you do things and how you would like to live life. So I usually say, like, for implementing such things as spirituality into life, it's like an integration of knowledge. I read this book at the moment called The Art of Dreaming by Carlos Castaneda, and he talks about how wizards, which when he says wizards, he means people who implement spiritual and dreamlike magical subjects into life for practical usage. He means that by having a certain kind of information about, like, in the book it's called the other awareness, something similar to that. By cultivating that into reality and taking these conceptual informations and making them experiential, real, tangible, you get to see how magical life actually is. You start to act as a conscious creator in your life. There's different kinds of practices, like meditation, for example. You can go into a meditation, and you can either just sit and receive and be open and receptive to whatever's present, or you can ask a question. There's many ways to do this, or just see what's happening with your mind and body and all these kind of things. But an essential part, which you also mentions, it's a cultivation of higher awareness. Meditation is not just a fluffy excuse for doing nothing, or projecting to another world, or being in an altered state of mind. Not only, it's a way of choosing to live intentionally with practical usage. So, for example, you can ask these different questions in meditation, and when you get out of the meditation, You can train yourself in such a way that you have a specific task that you can do, something concrete, something practical that you can do. They can translate from the spiritual sense of self, the consciousness, to the practical, physical world of 3D, or what you call reality. Most will call reality. And this is also the same thing with when we talk about, for example, society. It's the same kind of thing. So in society, it's just like a much broader term. See it as like a macrocosm. Like it's the same thing that's happening on the individual level that is happening in society as a whole. It's the same process for Earth as well, and the same process for the universe as well.
I just wondered about spirituality and turning something to reality. Does it mean that we can understand implementing spirituality as not just becoming spiritual in a conscious way, more spiritual, but getting something spiritual transformed to something else?
Right. So this has something to do with why the universe exists as it does and we perceive it to at all. The last story I told about like how the universe started to create was that it was one source with everything, and every piece of everything that we can ever know about and does even know about yet was present and known. Therefore, there was nothing, because it was just conceptual knowledge. There wasn't anything that could be experientially applied to anything, because there was just this one singular point of everything, which means nothing. And in order to experience that conceptual knowledge in something experiential, the universe, or the one source as we know it's divided itself into two polar opposites to be able to stand at one point and look back at the light, for example, if we talk about the darkness, or stand in the light and look at the darkness. That way it can experience itself from different angles. And these two polar opposites make more polar opposites that correlates with each other in many different ways.
Okay, but so of course that is a theory, and that is one way of seeing it and trying to understand something about spirituality in this case. I also think implementing spirituality can also be understood as, yeah, I was just thinking, is it just consciously cultivating a life where you get more spiritual, or is it actually making something physical out of the spirituality? I was mainly thinking about how to consciously develop a more spiritual way of living. That's how I was mainly looking at the question.
Yeah, because it's different. You can look at it that way, that it's the spirituality, so that you can make something physical and tangible and get something out of it, or you can simply just be in a spiritual, enlightened, conscious state. These two are like, none of them are right, none of them are actually wrong. It's just two sides of one thing. Again, like these polar opposites that experience each other. None of them are completely right because they belong to the same source, but they still have like the will to do as they are to be. I know it's a little bit complex, but yeah.
It's also that I heard the word manifesting way more when it comes to turning things physical, and that's, so maybe that's a little more of a direction, a specific other direction. So and regarding society, I was thinking that it feels like it's something that, or it seems that it's something that can spread like attitudes spread, like like fear can spread, love can spread. These different emotions, different states can spread among people, and it's the same with spirituality. You can also hear that some religions will even say there was an awakening in this and that year. Or like historians might even talk about it too, or refer to it like some a century of awakening or enlightenment, and they can be reference. It can be a reference to different things. It can be religious or scientific or a mix. But so there's something happening to society, and maybe we can be conscious about how we contribute to that. So I basically is thinking it starts with oneself very much, and that's and then the stronger we become as individual in our way of being and in our way of being spiritual, is that what we like to embrace, then that can spread. It spread more easily, the stronger it is. Yeah, so that's how I see. That's kind of what I think about how to implement in society, um, from the individuals. So what do you think, like, on society and implementing spirituality?
Well, I think that we already do make these small changes in the time that we're in right now. You can look at how many spiritual-based businesses that have been, how many services that have been offered in name of spirituality and with spirituality and focus. You can also see how that improves health and well-being in people's lives in general. You can see how many people that make a living by talking and sharing about topics about spirituality and how that benefits each and every one of us with, for example, stress and with finding the purpose of our individual self and life and the life path that we have. Yeah, it also prompts us to look outside the box and go outside the box to do these things in society. In general, there's a consensus that there's lack of evidence that spiritual practices and such actually do something good. I mean, at least lately, it's beginning to be more evident with scientific studies and such. Um, but really, those of us that work spiritually with life and with our work, our professional career and such, should just go and demonstrate how and give that evidence that is needed for the practical and magical application of these things into society, because ultimately it's part of us.
Setting examples is also helping to demystify concepts. When people can see examples with their own eyes and hear people talk about it, linked to trivial or everyday things, and then suddenly it's like, oh, okay, so that's a way to see it, look at it, and maybe it starts to make sense little by little.
Right,
Because yeah,
definitely. Because most people need to see things physically before they believe in them in any other plane. Like they have to see some evidence that it's actually something that's real. Um, and for
mhm,
some other people, it's different. They feel it, and they by that feeling they know it to be real. In this context, we can also talk about if it's even possible to be non-spiritual or spiritual at all.
mhm,
And to point to the question whether it's possible to be non-spiritual, if we talk about belief, yes, it's definitely possible to be non-spiritual. In terms of knowing yourself and knowing yourself deeply for who you truly are and who you really want to be, the answer is a clear no. Um, and the reason for this is that there's a part of you, a big part of you that is not tangible by soul, and that connects with spirit, that connects with soul, like the things we cannot per se describe, but we can experience them, and we can rest assured in them. And yeah, I guess for people that are not very interested in actually getting to know these kind of aspects, the answer would be no, because it's about what do you believe in, and do you believe deeply enough, that kind of stuff. And if you see no reason to with your life path, well, it doesn't matter really. It's just a matter of that, I think. What do you think?
Well, when I think of non-spiritual, I think of a robot. And that's because, to me, the word spiritual is a word. It's a word, and even if I don't say the word, stuff still happens. And people have so many ways of describing different experiences and states in their life. And we try, of course, to be able to communicate and understand each other in this world. We try to agree. We try to agree on definitions and concepts, and that way making it easier to understand each other. And it doesn't mean that we get each other fully. We can agree on using a word, and actually we might use it about the same things at the same time, but maybe not exactly. And we will probably never fully know. These small nuances in how we perceive life and how we feel, it's there's gonna have to be room for that. So when I see non-spiritual, I'm like, sure, I can hear a lot of people say that also about themselves if they don't like the word spiritual. But based on my understanding of the word and how I got to know the concept of spirituality, I'm like, oh, there's basically hardly any way around it as a human being. Because it's I mean, even people who don't do philosophical talking and don't reflect much in life. I mean, I talk to some that live also very simple lives, and they don't care about reflecting and all these deep talks. They don't care, but still I could hear uh, these same people say, but I just feel there's something. I just feel touched, or I feel this. I mean, in some certain moments, they will also have experiences. So I would never be able to rule it out for anyone. And of course, I have not asked any. I cannot. I cannot. I cannot say it's an absolute, but it feels like there's no way around it. It seems like to me there's no way around it. Also based on how we talked about what spirituality could be defined as.
Yeah, and I think you're definitely right about that. And that is what you're putting words on there, exactly why I say belief. We in terms of belief, it is possible to be non-spiritual. But if you really know yourself and really want and desire to know yourself for who you really are, it's inevitable to know this aspect of yourself. It's just something so ingrown to be human. I don't think it's a reach to actually say that it's that we are per definition spiritual beings. I don't think at all. And you gave some really good reasons to why that is. So now the question is, so what is spirit? And would you like to put some words on that, Patrick?
Yeah, because spiritual, of course, is one word, and then it's easily to. I mean, spirit is in that word. So we also have to kind of consider, okay, what's up with that spirit? You can say people are in a good spirit, and it's not exactly saying they're in a good mood, but it's kind of also they are in a good mood, or what? They are definitely. It seems positive, right? The word good also is sending it there, but like spirit, it's kind of like it's like it's like giving it a character. It's almost like giving spirituality a character. It's like, okay, if I embrace the idea of using the word spiritual about me, then if I want to give it a character and like not just see it as a concept, I can look at me and the spirit part, maybe. And this is, of course, an attempt to break down the understanding of me, maybe. Because then I would maybe say, oh, but is it then not the body? So I have body and spirit, or what? And so, but it's a way to, if I wanted to use spirit, I don't use it much. But if I wanted to use it, I would probably refer to me, like in a deep sense, like the essence of me. If I wanted to talk about the essence of me, maybe I could use a word like spirit, or the word of like the essence of a person. That's what I come to think of with the word. How about you?
Well, I think it's an integral part of us, and it's like a concept of um, metaphysical part of yourself that is connected to some kind of collective subconscious, and it exists and influences us beyond the five senses and the physical realm. This is the best explanation I've been able to come up with in terms of what is spirit, because this is a description of something that is intangible, but at the same time it's part of you. It's like a full-grown part of you, and inevitably so. You can experience it in these moments you also mentioned before, where you have like a profound experience, something that you can't quite put your finger on, but you know it made an impact on you. This can be considered to stem from the spirits being triggered by something that happened at some point. It might be connected to more than just the collective subconscious, but there's something with the collective subconscious that seems to spirit seems to be a natural thing for every one of us, and that's something we have to think about day and night, because it's so ingrown and natural to us, which is why I would put it like collective subconscious.
Mm.
But it's also something conscious for some people who really cultivate a sense of spirituality and their spirits, and utilizes that within their work or with their relations, or etc., etc.
It's yeah, it reminds me of this, like you also mentioned the collective consciousness. So it's sort of a reference to something we mentioned earlier in another episode about how we are connected. I think it was actually in the episode about judgment, how we have to sort of embrace that responsibility. Well, because if everyone is connected, then it also kind of makes sense to talk about a collective consciousness. It is something that can be totally new. The idea can be totally new to many. It seems like not that old to me. And I heard it several times. It's not like I talk about it a lot, but I don't feel the resistance as much, because I really am. I want to embrace that things are connected, and I want to leave the door open for things that can happen. And sometimes I meet people, and they will affect me like strongly. They are just a person like anyone, but beyond what I can explain, I just feel their presence, like, whoa. And then you can analyze their body language, or you talk about psychological mechanisms that affect us. But you can explain only so far, and then at some point you don't really know. And some people are just spot on sometimes when they introduce something in your life. It can also be that you call someone and say, I really felt like I had to contact you and tell you this. And then for some reason, it just, they might have the same idea, like, oh, well, I just thought about you too, and thinking about that. And for many years, I was just like, yeah, that just happens. That's some coincidence. It's fine. And now I don't want to judge it. I don't want to label it. I don't want to call it something. I want to stay open, because I hear people tell these things, and I don't want to tell them that I don't want to limit what it could be. Actually, I'm curious. Hey, what is it with what we're able to do as being and human being? What are we able to do? What level of connection can we actually have? So I don't want to put it in a box and say this is what we can do. And if I cannot prove it or talk about it in a scientific manner, or however you want to call it, then it doesn't exist. I don't want to say that. Not anymore. Now I want to leave it open, because I want to learn. I want to experience, and that's fine. I don't understand everything all the time, so maybe I don't need to. And that's why that's why spirit and collective consciousness, it has a space. It has room, because that is part of containing the infinite, which is what I also see in human beings again and again. I cannot say, I cannot limit what I see in people. So it's a creativity and infinite, and these things seem linked. And the collective consciousness is a big topic, big concept. But if we have the concept of infinity and have to play around with that a bit, and think about accepting that, then there's room.
I really, really like what you said about containing the infinite, because it can be understood in so many ways. Like it can be understood like we're trying to contain something that is infinite, and therefore we shrink it, or we can contain it by accepting, embracing the infinite aspect of that term, which means ultimately, like you say, that you have like an acceptance of like not trying to label anything, and trying to be, or being open to there's different ways how this can evolve and come from, and be described as, and it's not limited to any one specific thing. I think there's a lot of nice things to say about that. So the question is, why do we have a spirit? Is there any particular reason for that, or is that also containing the infinite and restricting it?
That's that's a good question. I also feel it's a, I don't know, like I feel like it's definitely in the realm of philosophy. I feel like I should zoom out and be the creator of all, and then tell you why was it interesting to create. But then again, the question can be asked because we have language. So why do we have a spirit? I think there's several ways of answering it. One way of approaching it can be starting by saying, because we wanted a word that was broader, that covered something else than what we already had. So why is the word spirit there? Maybe because some people felt the need for it, and then we could at least try to have a word container for a concept that was maybe not contained in the physical body, or saying the brain. But why do we have it? Then it's also like trying to answer the question as the all-knowing. That's a really hard one, but I feel it's enriching life to be able to be spiritual, and that seems linked to having spirit, because it's linked to awareness and creativity, as I see it. Is linked to this, whoa, this whoa. I'm more than I thought. Wow, this world is more than I thought. I keep seeing more. I cannot put a stop. Possibilities keep appearing, and I have not even seen what it can turn into, this life. So this ever expanding thing, maybe to get that experience is why we have a spirit, if I should guess on. I mean, it seems linked. What do you think? It's a
I
good
would
question.
totally agree. Totally agree, especially on the creativity, because the way I see it, like, I usually when I answer these questions, I let myself go in the background and I actually just do some automatic writing, and whatever answer comes up is the answer that I'm looking for. And what came up here was that we have a spirit for actually connecting to the creativity that we possess. So it's like a creative entity that constantly provides and sustains you with creative ideas. It's like a self-made inner guide that supports you and nudges you to explore and discover the best possible life for yourself. This is the way I see it and come to understand it. I think that's why it's so powerful, like thinking, for example, of what the Bible said about we are made in the image of God, which is a sentence we all know from the Bible. But it's so profound, because what did God do? God created everything and continues to create, and we are made in the image of God. So I think we can take that spirit and take it all the way back to our ancestors and see that the final ancestors actually like God and the universe itself, because it's purely creative energy. It's purely creating something that can create some kind of emotional experience for someone to have.
I like how you just said you go back and you just have this creation, and you had it, and then you said like God/universe, and it's like no matter what your starting point is, there will be some expansion, there will be some creation, because everybody kind of. I have not met a person, I think, that does not accept the idea that everything has not been as it is today. There was stuff happened throughout many years. People can disagree about how and when and what to call it, but yeah. So there's creation, there's expansion, and seemingly always has been. I like that. I find it very beautiful that how you talked about creativity and the potential, the spirit for the ability to discover one's potential and one's life. Like, I think it's truly there's a huge potential in it, and creativity can be so many things. When we move beyond linking creativity to being a painter or a composer or something, and we just see it as this thing that we can use in everything we do. You can be creative about how you eat your food or how you put salt on top of it. I mean, you can put nuances in everything in your life. And actually the question you ask yourself about why do we have a spirit, and you say you answer it by auto-suggestion or like by auto-writing, I feel like everybody kind of deserves to try it themselves and see what answer might come to them. Could be a general answer that they want to share. It could be something very personal that they feel, oh, this is something, means a lot to me. I just discovered something. I think we all benefit from asking ourselves, why do I have a spirit?
Definitely, because you're here with a unique experience. Like there's no such experience and never will be as yours. So having asking these questions and and seeing what comes up for you is, if you ask me, essential, because it really points towards that uniqueness and how everything is stringed together for your own uniqueness and everyone else's uniqueness, and perfectly intertwined within a big cobweb of energy and consciousness. It's very beautiful, and I would also definitely recommend anyone doing that. That's for sure.
Yeah, and if the word spirit feels too weird, then people can start by maybe saying, why do I have creativity? But it's kind of, it's
It works. It
If
works.
that works for people, but
Yeah,
depends.
definitely.
Nice. What about loss of the sense of spirituality? Can you lose your sense of spirituality once gained?
I
Or
think you can
haven't?
feel, yeah, I think you can feel like you have lost some kind of consciousness that you have, but truth is about that you cannot lose the consciousness and awareness that you already have. I think you would have to hit your head really hard to do that. In general, general rule is that the consciousness and awareness that you have, you do not just lose. Um, so you can feel like you lose um, that touch of spirituality. Some people would describe it as, I saw a video the other day, a guy described this as guides leaving your side, or it feels like you're empty or not guided or not supported, or there's not, you're feeling a little bit alone about something. That is one thing about it. And actually, this is usually what happens when people that follow their dreams all of a sudden stop following the dreams because they feel like they're not guided. They feel like a victim to circumstances and that there's nothing supporting them. And this ultimately makes these people the most prone people to actually be resentful, neurotic, overly skeptic, or bitter by age, because they feel like they've been deceived for following their dreams or their visions or something like that. And this is just because they didn't go through those tribulations that the path showed them, and it will continue to haunt them with these mental deficiencies, you can call them, until they actually do something about it. For example, in the book The Alchemist, there's this moment where Santiago has gone to Tangier, and his money has been stolen by a young guy, and he has nothing at all, and he just followed the signs, and he now feels like, okay, well, I'm here, I'm poor, I have nothing, and the whole market is just empty, and it's getting dark, hungry and such. Why would God do this to anyone following their dreams? It didn't make sense to him. So he made a decision to be resentful, to be bitter, to be this and that, and never trust people. And he would scold anyone following the dreams and say it's not true at all. And he did this until a couple of stones fell out of the pocket and saw a sign again and started to follow those signs. And that's really all it takes, to be persistent and follow it, because it's so easy to just give up and be resentful. But ultimately, it's just, I see it as a period where your higher spiritual self, a higher self, or God, or spirit guides, whatever you want to call it, whatever suits you or floats your boat. I see this a period of these wiser parts of yourself, more highly energetic parts of yourself, receding to develop and make some space for other aspects of yourself to develop. Because ultimately, you also have to kind of have a drive test of your system, like your physical system, and see, okay, well, how well is this integrated? Like making a scientific experiment, for example, you would have to check whether or not if the experiment is actually working out the way you intend to. Because if it's not working out as you intend to, there's some minor details that probably have to be adjusted a little bit.
Yeah, it's maybe hard to lose spirituality, as I hear you say, but you can sort of get out of touch with it. You can, but then because you can never leave it, then resentment can come. Because if you could leave it, then you would just forget about dreams that didn't happen, and live your life without it. But if people turn resentful, it's kind of because there's something they're still with them. So they cannot, once we have learned about some options in life or about choices to be made in life, we cannot unlearn the choices or the ability to make these choices. So yeah, that's interesting.
we all have these periods where we feel like we're cut off from our spirit or from God or something like that. It's just a temporary thing to see. Well, if you think of subconscious and physical and how this translates through the subconscious to the conscious to the physical, you can kind of see what this leads to. Because first you subconsciously program something into you with your conscious mind by selectively choosing the beliefs, for example, and the specific things that you work with in your contemporary experience. And then from that, the subconscious kind of makes habits out of that. It puts those things into action. So it's kind of a way to see how well that system works with those beliefs that you have trained so far, gathered so far. This is the way I see it. It's very, it gives a sense of calm, because it's just yourself checking yourself out and seeing, okay, well, how well is this biological system of mine actually doing? And does it act in the way that I intended to do? And if not, well, I can just make small adjustments and see, okay, well, this and this, and this and that. And yeah, simple scientific experiments. You could also put it like that.
Yeah, it also makes people ask questions, and maybe the right questions. I mean, when people struggle or feel life is meaningless, often a lot of questioning is happening, and people also talk about having wake-up calls when life is tough, when they hit what they perceive as rock bottom. I heard it many times, people talking about wake up. That was a wake-up call. And usually when people say that, the what follows is how they realized something to make their life better. So it's very much aligned with what you say, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely. This is also like you kind of touched a little bit upon it, but you see that when you dare to do things momentarily, which seems like crazy or out of the ordinary or something like that, you actually realize that if you didn't do these things, you wouldn't have experienced how magical life actually is and how well supported you are.
It's good that you mentioned the fact that it can be calming. This hey, we can all experience it. We're probably all gonna experience to feel cut off or feel a bit lost or alone in some cases, but we're gonna make it through. And once I can say now that I turned 40 that every time it happens and I make it through somehow, and I don't always know how, then it's like, oh, my belief of faith in myself and in that things are possible and everything is a lesson. The faith just gets stronger because, hey, I'm still here, and it wasn't that bad. Whenever I struggled or I felt lost or I had questions I couldn't answer for a while, it's not bad at all.
Nope, it's actually pretty good. So it's very, very enjoyable, and everything is working out for the best of your interests when that is your interest. So remember that.
That is your interest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think that's a good one to end on. Everything works out in your best interest, if that's your interest, because you have to also focus on that. You have to be open toward it, and then you'll see it actually starts coming to you, what's best for you. And thank you very much, of course, to you, Yeshua, and all of you out there watching. Wishing you a great day. This is a matter of trust. And you can subscribe, like, and comment if you want. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
See ya.